Holistiplan's tax letter can be a great resource for you to use for your clients and their tax preparers as they're getting ready to complete their tax return for the recently completed year. It's an opportunity to share with your clients and their tax preparers the various documents that your clients might expect to receive, as well as any tax-related activities that you knew about over the course of the year that will helpfully prevent errors on the returns that have to then later be corrected using an amended return. To access the tax letter section, which is available to premium subscribers in Holistiplan, navigate to your client's household page and then scroll down to the bottom. You'll see tax letters. If you've already used the tax letter section for a previous year, you'll see any listed in the table. To add a new tax letter, simply click the Add New Tax Letter link, pick the year of the letter that you want to construct, and now it will show up in the table as well. Let's click on the 2022 tax letter just so we can start building that one out. You'll see two sections already listed here on this letter construction stage. The first one is the tax document section up here on the top. This is a section that you can use to list the various documents that you think your client should expect to receive based on the recently completed year. To add documents, you simply click Add Another Line and pick from the drop-down menu. So as an example, let's say we'll add the 1099 consolidated for Peter and Paula's joint fidelity. Now, as a best practice, we have some folks that are only adding the tax documents that their advisory firms are responsible for. So various 1099s, 1099Rs, gain loss reports if people wanted to get down to that level of detail. Other advisors are using this section to include every tax document that they know about, which might include things like W-2s, or some of the other various things like a 1099 interest or 1099 div for accounts that they might not even be managing, but they know exist in their clients' lives. How you choose to use this section is really up to you. There's no one right way. There's just going to be a way that is correct for you. We also acknowledge that after our initial build of this table and having more and more folks suggest things that they want to add to it, the list could be incredibly long. So rather than us continuing to add specific forms, we've given people the opportunity to just add their own. So if there's something that's not in the drop-down menu, you simply have to click Other, type in the name of that document, Other Document Description, and now that's going to show up the same way as any other document might from the drop-down menu here in the letter that we're building, with the account description and the expected document. The cost basis section is intended for those transactions where there might be a taxable event, but there's no easily reportable cost basis. There's no 1099 that's going to be generated. So one common example might be the sale of a primary residence. To add something in the cost basis section, the behavior is the same as in the tax document section with one apparent difference. Rather than a drop-down menu of all the possible transactions this could be, you simply have a free-form text field where you can type the description of the transaction itself. So let's say we had a sale of primary residence for $800,000. Cost basis was only $200,000, and that this took place on May 1st, 2022. Now that is built into the letter itself. Again, this can be helpful for the tax preparer to determine the appropriate amount of taxable gain, if any, on some of these transactions where the cost basis isn't easily reported. The remainder of the tax letter, as we scroll down, includes a number of taxable or tax-related events that, if not properly reported, might lead to errors with the tax preparation itself. Some of these are more common than others, but we tried to include a list here of some of the things that over time people have found that have generated the most errors on a tax return because of documentation that was incomplete or because it was unclear. One common example is qualified charitable distributions or distributions from an IRA that went directly to charity. Custodians are not good at reporting these the way that you know they're going to need to be reported on a tax return, because remember, with a QCD, that's money that's going directly out of an IRA to charity. Doesn't count as income, counts towards a client's required minimum distribution, but a client does not also then get a Schedule A charitable deduction for that. But a custodian will code a 1099 to just show a gross distribution and have it all be taxable and not indicate that it might not be taxable because it was going to a charity. So how do you help in this situation? Well, let's find the section that says charitable distributions from an IRA. We can click on that. click when that actually happened. So let's say it was July 21st, and we did a QCD from Peter's IRA to the United Way, or $50,000, right? The details don't particularly matter as we're constructing this, but now we can see that as we hit enter, the charitable distribution from IRA section was added to the tax letter, including some explanatory text about what a QCD might be, and the description, the date, the event, and then the amount that actually went out. As you add additional sections to the tax letter, I'm just going to add a couple here. The details don't matter. I just want to show folks how you can start manipulating these things. Let's see, contribution to Paula's Roth. Now there's a few different sections that are all built here into the tax letter. If you want to reorder the sections, so how they show from top to bottom, you just click the reorder sections and you'll see every section that is in here, starting with documents all the way down to the disclaimer. And you can just simply drag on one of these and move them around to reorder things the way that you would like them to. Hit save new order. And now we can see that we did that switch where these two boxes actually switched where they were. Similarly, if you have multiple lines inside of a specific section, so let's say there were more QCDs, you could use the same functionality to move the sections within, move the transactions within a particular section. Now, there might be opportunities or situations where you want to add something that isn't on this list. You can do that in two different ways. The first way is to add a blank section that will be specific to this particular tax letter. To do that, you'll click the miscellaneous freeform text. That will create a section down here. To add another line, we simply have to we have to give this a title. So let's just call it sample title. And in the description, we'll just do some sample text. And now when we click outside of the box, we'll see that our sample is right down here at the bottom. And again, if we wanted to reorder it, we could do that however we wanted to. That's a great way of putting something unique to this particular household inside of their tax letter. If you wanted to do something that was more universal across all of your clients' tax letters, you can do that too by navigating down to the edit section types. Click on that. And in here, you have a couple of different functionality pieces. The first is that you can create a section, right? This will create a section that will now be in that bullpen of possible sections for you to choose across all of your clients, not just the one that you happen to be working on. To complete this, you'll just want to give the section a title. If you want it displayed maybe differently in the tax letter as opposed to in that bullpen section, you can type that too. Some folks might just use the same for both fields, but it's really up to you. The description help text, this will be that small italicized text underneath the description field. So if you wanted to give hints as to what users should enter in the description, you can put that here. We have year applicable start and year applicable end fields. This might be for the case where you only want activities to show up in a specific year. So you can say, I only want it, say, in 2020 and 2021. If that was the case, you would just enter 2020 and 2021 here. If you wanted to show up across all years, you just leave these blank. The tax letter description field will show that text that accompanies the description itself, or the activity itself. So here, the QCD example was some explanatory text to an end client as to what a QCD is. Because we have two different versions of the tax letter, one that's intended for clients and one that's intended for tax professionals, sometimes we'll see people use different language in those two letters. I'll show you what this looks like when we go back to the tax letter itself, but the Holistiplan generated sections might have more explanatory text for clients and something that is stripped down for tax professionals under the assumption that they know what a qualified charitable distribution is, just as an example. The bottom will be an opportunity for you to enter how you would want this section referenced in the tax report that will be back to this year. So if I'm doing a 2022 tax letter, when I finally upload my client's 2022 tax return, I want the tax report to reference whatever it is whatever activity it is I've entered in their tax letter. That's almost as a check, right? So as an example, let's look at a Holistiplan generated a Holistiplan generated section, and let's find the Roth conversions. So with Roth conversion, the explanatory text down here is verify that Form 8606 was filed and any basis was incorporated properly, right? So even with the Roth conversion, yes, you might know that a custodian is going to send out a 1099-R, but then you know by adding the Roth conversion to your client's tax letter, this is your check. Hey, we know we did a conversion. We should make sure that Form 8606 was in there correctly and that any sort of basis was correctly calculated. So that was how you can create a section. If you wish to edit a Holistiplan generated section, you can do that as well. I've already done that with some of these that are marked edit, but if I wanted to edit anything, say with that Roth conversion section that I had before, I simply click on view and I can click on customize, and now the fields are available for me to start editing text if I wanted to do so. If I ever wanted to get rid of a custom section, I could do that just by hitting the trash can icon here. And that will get rid of it, not just in this client's household, but in every client's household. Because remember, as we've got in our warning text here, these are global templates. Changes that are made here are going to be reflected in all tax letters. So if I come back to Peter and Paula's tax letter, I've got a couple of other things that I think might be worth talking about. I said I'd show you what it would look like if we were to view not just the client version, but the CPA version. So again, the CPA version is going to be the stripped down one. So if you have custom sections, the CPA version will have in its text for these sections, whatever it was that you indicated was to go on the tax professional version of the tax letter itself. We've also got a status box for all these tax letters. So for those of you, particularly in multi-advisory firms where people are touching the tax letters maybe at different times, it's just a way to keep track of where you are in this letter. So not started is probably going to be an important one. Start a draft, ready for review, reviewed, complete not sent, complete will not send. Again, we tried to put in a bunch of different options that will be applicable to multiple people's workflows. Holistiplan is agnostic about the best way to use this. It's whichever way is best for your firm. You can choose to enlarge the font. So for those clients who might need something that's a little bit bigger than the default here, you just click enlarge font, and now I've got a much larger, easier to read font for your clients to read. Section for viewing and printing the letter. So while you can see this being built in real time, if you want to see what it looks like as just the letter itself, you can click the preview button and you'll see that. You can exit the preview to come back to our building page. You can print only, or you can choose to print and set the status to complete and send. So if you click this, not only will you have the ability to then use the printer dialog for your computer, but the tax letter status will automatically shift to complete and sent. The tax letter staging is an opportunity for you to see all of the tax letters across your firm by year. So here I've come to the tax letter staging. If I click on this year box, I can see the status for all of my households, regardless of the year. So here I'm in the 2022 year. If I wanted to see the 2023 year, things will change a little bit. So I'll see the name of my household. If I've indicated who their tax preparer is on their household page, that will show up here. Similarly, the advisor will show up as well. And then the status bar for all of these here, it will indicate the status and then when that status was most recently changed. All right, so let's come back. If I wanted to mass batch, or if I wanted to batch print, I could select any or all of my letters, click on print selected letters, and then if I hit print, I will now have PDF files for the various tax letters that I've selected. Now I could do all of them, I can do individual ones, it's really up to you. That is going to conclude, I should say, that's not quite going to conclude. Let me apologize. There is one more customization section that we can do that has to do with the header and the disclaimer section for the tax letters. Those are customizable for your firm. To customize these, you simply need to navigate to administration, firm admin, and then the customization section here. So this is similarly where you would go if you wanted to add your logo to any reports. But for specific to the tax letters, there are two opportunities for you to customize the tax letter. The first is the header. So again, you can have separate headers for clients and tax professionals, and then the disclaimer down at the bottom. To update these, you want to type into the text field and then make sure you hit the update tax letter header before you exit this page. That's going to make sure that whatever updates you make here make their way to the tax letters themselves. And that's going to conclude our overview of Holistiplan's tax letter.